Hello, everybody. Live again, like I promised. We're going to talk today about how to be less rigid with your macros. So, the other day, I posted a question asking you guys, what are the biggest problems that you feel like you face in this fitness and nutrition lifestyle? And that I would create lives every day. My goal is every day, every weekday for 2 weeks to try to answer them, and longer if I can. My goal is 2 weeks, but I'm going to try to do these pretty regularly. So if you are here live, please say hello. I want to see if my little comment section thing is working. I have this ability to see comments. So we're going to talk macros today, how to be less rigid with them, how to enjoy nights out or random movie nights with your family. I have a couple different strategies for you. Okay. Oh, awesome. I can literally see them. And I think if I click it, you can see it too. Look at that. It says hello. What's up? This is cool. Learning this new software and I'm really digging it. So excuse my excitement. All right. So this is a common question. And this was something that somebody in particular commented on, that they feel like, how can I be less macro or calorie obsessed when I am like having a movie night with my kids and I want to just not think about it, right? You want to not think about it. You want to just kind of relax about it, right? And so we're going to talk about that today. I want to remind you who I am. I'm Jamie, personal trainer, nutritionist. I run Strength by Jamie Barroso, and we help you look like you lift and love how you feel like a badass. So let's get into it. So my first tip, and I'm going to share some things. I have kind of a 3-tip process here. So when we're talking about macros and we're talking about calorie tracking and we're talking about all of this kind of rigid stuff, I know that your natural instinct, because most of us have this black and white thinking inside of us, especially when it comes to fitness and nutrition, because we generally have this fitness and nutrition trauma that we have come with. We have fitness and nutrition baggage, so to speak, that we bring to everything. And so in this space, in Team Strength, in Strength by Jamie and the Strength Method, we encourage you to kind of shed that baggage or leave your baggage at the door and be open to learning kind of a new way. Okay. But guaranteed you're going to take some of that baggage in with you because it doesn't feel very comfortable to leave it all. And that's understandable too. But I want to encourage you, number one, to not play macro Tetris. So this is something we talk about a lot. And I have so many people that are like, okay, they go from nothing or very little to tracking calories, protein, carbs, fats, and they are trying to get them within like a couple of grams of these very specific numbers every single day. And it is exhausting and tiring and can be very frustrating and can lead to less success long term because you can't really do that all of the time, right? It's not as sustainable. And so I'll have people be like, I have 40 grams of protein left and 2 grams of carbs. What can I eat? It's like, shit, right? So we really encourage you, number one, to just chill out a little bit, to be honest. Chill the fuck out, track your calories, pay attention to those. We like to say that calories are king and protein is queen. So whatever your calories are for your goals, try to hit those because that's going to make the biggest impact in terms of your aesthetics, and likely in terms of your overall health as well, is just eating a caloric amount that is correct for your body and is correct for the goals that you have, whether it's weight loss, whether it's body recomposition, or whether it's muscle gain and kind of bulking. Okay. And then pay attention to your protein. Protein is going to be really, really important in these aesthetic goals. But as long as you have your calories covered, you can feel free to experiment a little bit with getting your protein up there. And then if you get to the point where you're really good at meeting your protein needs and meeting your calorie needs, then if you want to start paying attention to fat and carb grams and it doesn't add too much stress to your daily routine, then I encourage you to do it because you're not going to get a ton of difference in terms of aesthetics by manipulating these numbers. But for example, if I'm left to my own devices, I often way overeat on carbs and way undereat on fat. And so for me, it's just making sure I literally get enough as like my minimum. And I kind of just look at that number and I kind of just pay attention to it generally, but I'm not really obsessing over it. So once you have calories and protein in check, paying attention to fiber after that is really going to make a big difference. So making sure that your fiber is there so that you can make sure that you're eating a whole foods quality diet. Okay. The second thing I want to talk about is this idea of calorie options. So I'm going to share my screen with you real quick. I need to share some, but I need to pull it up. So give me a sec. I just downloaded it. So I need to grab it. Nope, it's not coming up. Well, it's the idea of calorie cycling. Give me 2 seconds. I need to pull this up because this is really good info for you guys. Share and download. And I'm going to post this later so you guys can kind of save it. Oh, that's why, because I X'd out of it. All right, here it is. Come back here to you. If you're watching live, please say hi. I'm gonna hide this right here. Please say hello. I'm gonna share my screen. I have a window. Here it is. Okay. Oh, look at that. That's so cool. How do I make me bigger? There we go. All right. So this is kind of your calorie cycling option. So this is ideal if you are, now I want to preface this by saying, if you are already a little bit familiar with tracking calories and protein and you're very consistent with it, I would not recommend this if you do not already know how to track these things and if you're not already very consistent with it. I need to preface that by saying this. But once you get pretty good at it, you definitely have options within. Okay. So this is what I like to call like calorie cycling options. All right. The overall goal is to have a end of week overall calories of what you're eating. So I took the amount of, let's say 1600 per day. And if you look here at this option, Steady Betty, this person, and my names are stupid. So we're going to roll with that. My little names here are just Steady Betty, Cycle Michael, Weekend Warrior is kind of cool, but Steady Betty and Cycle Michael are super dumb, but we're rolling with it. Steady Betty is the same calories every single day. Steady Betty is going to eat the same calories every single day for a weekly total of 11,200 calories. And that amount of calories is aimed to get her weight loss and slow weight loss over time and muscle gain. Okay. But Cycle Michael over here also needs around 1,600 calories a day, but wants to have a little bit more some days and is willing to eat a little bit less on other days. So this is like a standard calorie cycling model. We put like about 200 calories in between the days. Now, it's not that big of a difference, but it does actually make a difference. On some days, if you can handle being a little less full and eat about 1,450 calories, then on some other days, you can have a little bit higher calories, 1,700, 1,750. This is ideal for people who feel like, because it's totally normal to eat a different amount of food every day, right? If you were not tracking your calories and you were just eating intuitively, or just eating when you were hungry, there's going to be some days where you're hungrier than others, right? So kind of having this setup where you eat less on 3 days and more on 4 days, or you could flip that vice versa, is going to be ideal for people who really feel like they have that happen to them a lot. Some days I'm just really, really hungry, and other days I'm just really not, and I could eat less. And that's totally fine to do. And in fact, I find clients have much more success when they do it in a way that's planned, instead of feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to eat 1,600 calories every day and today I went over. And oh my gosh, tomorrow I'm going to punish myself by eating less. And it's this mindset shift, right? But if you go into it with a plan, hey, 4 days a week, I'm going to eat slightly higher calories, and 3 days a week, I'm going to eat slightly less. And maybe you plan it out so you plan all of your higher calorie days on your workout days. Or maybe you notice you're hungrier the day after your workouts, and so you plan them then. Or maybe you plan them to be on the weekend so you can have some little buffer there. Or maybe you just play it by ear, and every single day you're like, let's see how I feel today. Is it a 1,500 calorie day, 1,400 calorie day, or is it a 1,700 calorie day? However you do it, if you plan it, it makes a much bigger difference. But if you'll notice, Cycle Michael is still at 11,200 calories at the end of the week. Cycle Michael is going to get the same aesthetic results as Steady Betty, other than the fact that he's a guy and guys lose weight quicker than women, right? But you get the point. And here's an example. So I will say Steady Betty and Cycle Michael work really well for most people. Weekend Warrior is where I say proceed with caution. However, if you have the mental ability, the mental stamina, I will say the emotional stamina to be able to deal with hunger. So this is really hard for me. I love the idea of Weekend Warrior, but I am not in a good headspace if I don't eat enough if I go too far below a minimum. So it's really hard for me to do this because I can't handle eating like 1,300 calories a day. It just affects me too much. And I've never tried to push the envelope on it. So, and that's coming from me. So this has worked for a lot of clients. I have a client recently who did this. She did Weekend Warrior. She ate close to 2,300 calories on Saturdays and Sundays, and she stuck more close to like 1,300 during the week. Again, net calories is still the same. And this works really well for that person who wants that weekend flexibility. And so here, I'll preface this also by saying Weekend Warrior doesn't work too great with people who have a history of an eating disorder or body dysmorphia. This is where I tend to see this not work as well, because being in that low calorie state starts to bring back either feelings or actions of somebody in that state, right? No matter how long it's been since you've healed from it, it can trigger that. So that's why I say proceed with caution. However, if you don't have that, or you think you might like to try it, I always encourage trying things to see how they work for you. But this is a fabulous thing. So I had a client who just really enjoyed having wine and takeout and pizza and wanted to eat popcorn on the weekends. And she really wanted to lean into that. So I like that for this. Where this can be a slippery slope is, like I said, the eating disorder route, but also the slippery slope of restricting yourself Monday through Friday and then overindulging on the weekends. So that is something that a lot of clients come to us with history of over restricting Monday through Friday and then blowing it on the weekends. This is something that it has two different effects. It either helps that, because this person can finally actually just lean into it and plan it. Kind of like I said before with Cycle Michael, where if you are planning it, it actually makes a much bigger difference in terms of like your mindset and how you go into it. That can really help. So planning for this, like, no, I'm not fucking up by overindulging on the weekend. I planned to overindulge on the weekend, but I'm still monitoring it. That's the big key here. You have to monitor it if you really want to see results. So it can help. The slippery slope is where it can't help. It almost feeds that restrict during the week and overindulge on the weekend. So this person usually does pretty well. I've seen with clients, this person usually does pretty well tracking these lower calorie days and staying consistent, but they still go off the rails on the weekend. And maybe they have a little bit more success than when they did before, just because they are monitoring this Monday through Friday, whereas before they weren't monitoring, they were just, being restrictive. But that dietary awareness can help, but you're still overdoing it on the weekends. And so unless you plan it and pay attention to it, your average still can be 11,200 unless you go off the rails, and then you're increasing your average or increasing your total. And so that's really what we want to pay attention to. You notice in all three of these, the total is still the same. And that's the goal here, is to split it up in a way that works for you and works for your lifestyle. So in terms of having a little flexibility on the weekends and having a little bit more buffer, either of these, Cycle Michael or Weekend Warrior, is a great way to structure your calories. That being said, I'm going to share something else with you. I'm going to share something called a consistency calendar. So now we're going into step 3 or option 3 or whatever. Let me pull this up so I can properly share it. Downloads. I'm going to open up this one for you. Okay. Cool. So it's a consistency calendar. This is a consistency calendar. This is something that we give to all of our clients. And you might have seen something like this before, especially if you've been hanging around here for a long time. But this is the general idea that you don't always have to be perfect. Okay. So even despite tracking, your weekends as a weekend warrior, or your Cycle Michaeling or whatever it is, you still have wiggle room to not be tied to the app, because that's part of the problem. It's like, okay, we've built in all of these fluffy markers so I can have more on the weekends, et cetera, et cetera. But part of the problem, part of the thing that people want to do is detach completely, right? I get that totally. And I argue that if you don't allow yourself to detach completely from time to time, again, if it's part of the plan, it's the mindset shift that you go into it with. If it's part of the plan to be imperfect, then all of a sudden it's much easier to be consistent. We expect you to be imperfect. But if you expect perfection from yourself, even if it's subconsciously, even if on the logical brain, you're like, one day isn't a big deal, right? Subconsciously, you're still kind of expecting perfection from yourself. So if it's part of the plan, it makes it a lot easier to stick to. So I want you to kind of visualize it like this. And if you want a copy of this consistency calendar, comment below and I will just send this to you, because we want to help as many people as possible. But the idea is aiming for 80% consistency. Now, I will say, I like to say 80 to 90% consistency, because if your goals are a little less rigid in the aesthetics department, if you are somebody who, it depends on where you're coming from. So if you're starting from the very bottom, you've never really kind of delved into this lifestyle before and you don't know where to start and you feel overwhelmed by all of it, 80%. If you are very overweight and have a lot of weight to lose and you're just starting paying attention to your your intake, 80% is going to work really well. The closer you get to those like last 5 to 10 to 20 pounds, maybe 20, a little bit more rigid you have to be, and a little bit more accurate, I should say, not rigid, a little bit more accurate you have to be. And so I say bring it up to like 90. Or if you're somebody whose goal is you're already a healthy body weight, your goal is to feel and look better at that body weight. Listen to that again. Your goal is to feel and look better at that body weight. So maybe you've said to yourself before, I want to change my body weight. But now you're kind of leaning into this idea like, well, really what I want is to feel better. I want to look better. I want to look like I lift, and I want to love how I feel in a bathing suit this summer, right? That's not necessarily tied to a scale weight. You can get there without ever adjusting the weight on your scale. 80%, right? It's really when we get a little bit closer to, I'm determined to lose these last 10 pounds. I'm determined to get, have these aesthetics. We want to be closer to 90%, but I'm going to use 80% for general health, longevity, sustainability, looking great, lifting great, feeling strong. 80%. And you'll notice in this calendar, if you are consistent with hitting your target, whether it's a weekend warrior or a steady Betty, if you are consistent with getting in your training, you get a check mark. Easy peasy. If you're not, if you lean into, I don't feel like being tied to this freaking app right now. I'm going out to dinner and I don't want to think about it. In which case I have something to say, and I'm going to say it real quick now because otherwise I'll forget. You can provide a buffer for yourself. You still might get a red X for consistency, which is fine because we want red X's on this calendar. But the idea of like, all right, I'm going to track. So if you know you're going to go out to dinner, and you want to disconnect, and you don't want to have to like look at all the portions and like track it, and you really know that you want to be dedicated to that kind of general idea of enjoying this meal without being tied to your app, then track up until then and leave yourself a 500 calorie buffer. And sure, you might very well know going in that you're going to eat more than 500 calories, but you're not 100% off the mark. So some people use these as an opportunity like, oh, well, I fell off the wagon. I'm not going to track today. I'm not going to track tomorrow. I'll start again Monday. You don't need to do that. Leave a buffer, enjoy the meal, pick it up again tomorrow. Okay. But it would count as like an X on your calendar because you're pretty sure you didn't hit it. Okay. But you'll notice you have, in a standard month, you have 5 days where you can be off track and still be within that 80%, 80 to 90% consistency range. And this is really, really important because if you expect to have a green check mark on every single day, then it is going to be really hard for you to sustain this long-term because that is just not sustainable. It is just not realistic for 99.99% of people. Okay. So this general idea of allowing yourself that imperfection is going to help a ton. I'm not going to lie. I hate tracking and I have no idea why. Let me ask you this. I mean, I get it. Well, I have a couple things to say about it. First of all, is that a lot of the people that I talk to, a lot of clients, a lot of prospective clients that hate tracking, usually they're too rigid with it. They're weighing spinach. They're weighing everything. They haven't done it long enough to learn the little tips and tricks to make it easy, and or they haven't gone through that kind of hard period when you first start tracking. It takes a while to build up your library, your food library of the foods you most often eat. Right now, I could track. It's 1 o'clock. I've had breakfast. I've had lunch. And I've had a couple of snacks, and I could go in my tracking app and I could track all of that in maybe a minute or two. And so that means my entire day would take maybe 5 minutes to track. If I waited to the end of the day to track, it would maybe take me 5 minutes at the end of the day. So if you can get to that point, it's so easy and it becomes so much easier to not hate it. The other thing is if you don't give yourself enough buffer. So I tend to hate tracking too when I do it too long and too often. So right now I'm doing it because I'm in a calorie deficit, but as soon as I go out of my calorie deficit, I'm going to go back to tracking 2 days a week just to kind of get a radar of where I am, try to sit around maintenance, but I'm not going to be obsessed with it. I'm not going to be tied to it because I know that my stamina is not going to be able to maintain. And that's when I fall off the rails. That's when I go off the rails, is when I either tied to it too rigidly and then I like completely go off. So you have to lean into those seasons. Again, plan it, make it part of the plan, and it's much, much easier. And I can't actually see who you are. I'm going to look at my phone. I'm going to see if I can see who you are, because this is saying Facebook user. And there's this nifty little way that I can see your name, because this is a different platform I'm using. If you guys have any more questions, let me know now. I'm going to let you go very soon. I'm just checking in. Any questions about this? Jenny, now I see you. Yeah, I get it. People are watching with, oh, it just got a comment that says people are watching with you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Awesome. So I'll send this to you if you guys want it. If you have any other questions about anything in this regard, let me know. Let me know also whether you're, look at my funky earrings. I just grabbed these because I thought they worked right now. I don't normally wear these. I don't know why they look cool. They stand out. I want to know. So I have literally, look at my list that I have. I'm going to stop sharing. This is my list of all of the questions you guys have, of things that I want to go through. And nobody wanted to know more about tracking. So I want to ask you, whether you're watching live or you're watching the replay, can you let me know in the comments, if I pull my phone up next to me in this image, you see me and you see my phone, would it be helpful for you to go through tracking, like how to do it accurately, how to do it in a way that doesn't feel so, let me know. And Jenny, I would argue if you can get through the initial phase, you know what else is partly uncomfortable about tracking? And I'm just going to be very, very blunt here, is people are usually uncomfortable having to face the decisions they're making every day in terms of their nutrition. And it's the whole idea of staying in your comfort zone. And there's a little bit of avoidance. And I'm not saying that this is what you're doing, because there's so many reasons that somebody might, hate tracking, et cetera. There's so many. But like, for example, I've definitely talked to people before who they go through the McDonald's drive-through, they order the Big Mac, they order the fries, and they don't enter it in because it's like this guilt, and it's very uncomfortable to validify. That's what I'm looking for. It's very uncomfortable to validify their nutritional choice by tracking it. Okay. So when you track it, it's like, it's valid all of a sudden. It's there. It's like, hey, here it is. I chose this. I did it actively, and now you're ashamed of it. And you don't want to bring that to life. So be really in tune with maybe the reasons that you don't love tracking, because if we really think of it as dietary awareness, tracking helps bring dietary awareness. So don't be too rigid with it. Don't expect perfection from yourself. Use it as a tool. This is another huge thing. Use it as a tool for education and not a tool for restriction. Okay. So be okay with entering that Big Mac and those fries, because again, the goal is not to restrict yourself. If you're avoiding putting that in the app, it's because you're coming from a place of restriction, that you're not allowed to have that was somehow bad. Whereas if you put it in your app and you come at the angle of like education, like, let me see how many calories this actually had, without the guilt, without the shame, knowing full well that you're more than welcome to have it. It makes a big difference. Let me tell you a quick story before I let you guys go. I had a client. I love her. She just messaged me recently. She had a beautiful baby boy. But anyway, I'll never forget this. She texted me one day and she was like, I need to share something with you. I freaked out because I was in the office and I don't know what came over me. I've been really good about resisting the food that they bring in the office. Somebody brought in donuts, and whatever stars aligned that day, I wanted donuts, and I had 3. And she was like, I felt like shit. I had 3 donuts. I came home going, what the heck? She was like, I hadn't tracked yet that day. She was planning on tracking. She had her breakfast prepared. She had her lunch prepared. She usually, when she would get home from work, kind of just enter those things in. She already had them, see what she had left for dinner. And then that's kind of just was her process. Some people do it in the morning. That's how she did it. So she's like, I had 3 donuts. I didn't want to track everything I ate when I got home. I didn't even eat my lunch. She was like, I didn't eat my lunch. I just ate 3 donuts. I had my breakfast. And now I feel like, I went home feeling like absolute shit. I threw off my plan. I'm just going to have like pizza for dinner tonight. And this sucks. And I suck. And she was like, but then I told myself, no, chill out. What would Jamie tell you to do? Which I loved. The egocentric part of me was like, I love, what would Jamie do? WWJD. I'm going to get y'all a bracelet. And Jamie would say, just track it, just put it in, just be aware of it, use it as an educating tool, and move on. And so she did. And she was actually surprised because she realized she had like 400 calories left for the day. And sure, she needed a lot more protein to meet her needs, but she actually didn't fuck up her entire day. Sure, she might have had a lower nutrition day or a lower fiber day, but that's fine. That happens all the time. That is not a big deal. That doesn't impact anybody. So she just ended up having a normal dinner, like the dinner she had already planned. And her mood went from like freaking out, like I suck and this sucks and I'm avoiding it. She confronted the uncomfortable. That's a big piece here, guys. She confronted the uncomfortable. She put her foot into that uncomfortable space and did it anyway. And it actually really helped. And it put her in a mindset of like, I didn't fuck up. I just had a day where I had 3 donuts. Like those are two totally separate things, right? And guess what? This person is like massively successful because she's able to confront the uncomfortable and have that mindset. What's up, guys? If you are just joining, please go back and watch the replay. We talked really good stuff today. If you guys have anything else in particular, anything regarding training, I think I'm going to do some training stuff next week, some lat engagement and squat depth and squat form. We're going to talk about all kinds of good stuff on these lives. So if you guys have any other questions or anything I can help you with, please comment below and let me know, and I'll put it on my list. Love you guys. Stay strong.